We're Steve and Audra. We're from South Florida, have been married 22 years, and love traveling and adventuring, laughing, and working on low-budget DIY projects together. Our latest adventure is the purchase of this 2019 Ford Transit high-roof cargo van that we've been converting into a camper van so we can travel the country with our two cats, Captain Phaddeus Winky Pinkerton and Lady Gray Gillespie Pinkerton, collectively known as the Pinkertons. We're not sure how our cats will take to van life, so we've been slowly preparing them. Even before we purchased the van, we started getting them used to a harness and leash. First, putting their harnesses on for short increments of time so they could get used to the feeling. It's a little funny to watch as they act like they are learning to walk all over again. We eventually built up to putting leashes on them. Then we practiced walking them on leashes at our local tennis court since that provides a protected environment. It was a good test and training for all of us as we figure out this new stage of life and how it'll work. It seemed to go pretty well. It was a good baby step and gave us some confidence about future travels with the cats. Our desire is to take them with us instead of leaving them home with a caretaker. Today, we put everything to the test. Come along with us as we take our first road trip to Savannah, Georgia.
After packing up the van and getting the cats situated, we hit the road for our first trip. For probably at least the first hour of the trip, Fatty cried pretty loudly. Gray was quieter, but Fatty's crying tended to get her worked up, so then we'd ended up with a duet of crying cats. Fatty seemed to be the happiest when sitting on our laps where he could look outside, and also feel the air from the AC on his face. Gray was most content when she was close to Audra, but in a lower, more secure spot on the floor. As is typical for a Florida summer afternoon, it started to rain as we traveled, but that didn't stop us from our guilty pleasure of Mickey D's. Yes, every once in a while, fast food is just the easiest option when you don't have a lot of time to spare.
I think Steve really likes his burger.
We tried to counterbalance our unhealthy dinner with some delicious mango from a neighbor's tree.
This sure is a lot better than camping in a tent, especially in the rain. And this mango is really good. We reached Ormond Beach in the early evening hours. We purposely broke the trip up into lots of little segments to make the cats' first trip a little smoother as we ease them into traveling. I'm usually not a fan of driving or riding for long hours, but we've discovered that traveling in the van is much more enjoyable than traveling in a small car. As the Smash Mouth lyrics go, so much to do, so much to see, so what's wrong with taking the back streets? We took some time to explore the area. It's always nice to get off the main highways and enjoy some more scenic views.
We had researched some potential overnight spots and found a really great area that we thought could work for parking and sleeping overnight. But after much debate, we decided we are just not at a point where we are ready to risk a disturbed night of sleep. We don't feel like we've learned the ropes yet about choosing boondocking spots. Instead, we settled on Plan B, parking in a Cracker Barrel parking lot. We definitely didn't need to be concerned about our safety. We were protected by a very powerful Jedi.
Luke, I am your father.
What you doing, kitty? The cats did great overnight, and we got a good night's sleep. We discovered that Fatty is greatly interested in exploration. He was ready to venture out of the van and try out his leash in the new environment. Gray was not so keen on adventuring. We let Fatty explore for a while, then we got back on the road. We headed back to Ormond Beach, planning to enjoy some morning hours along the shore. Gray mustered up some courage and got her very first look at the ocean. Steve went for a little walk to find some coffee while I hung out with the cats in the van, enjoying the view of the ocean. We got back on the road. The cats need to get readjusted a little whenever we start back up, then seem to settle back in pretty quickly to riding in the van.
What you see over there, kitties, huh? What do you see?
Both cats love looking around, taking in the view. They especially seem to like watching the traffic going by.
You good girl, huh? You good girl? What's your brother doing back there? He's being good too. Just chilling.
I think the cats are settling into van life. That's pretty good news.
It was smooth sailing as we crossed the Florida-Georgia state line until Fatty started to cry incessantly, and we weren't sure why. We decided to pull in at the next rest stop. We thought maybe he needed to use the litter box or wasn't feeling well. Instead, as soon as we stopped, he wanted to get out of the van. So we let him walk with us over to the picnic area since there weren't many people or other pets around. As a rule, we're trying to watch out for things that might spook the cats, and we pick them up or take them back to the van as a preventative strike against them getting spooked and escaping their leash. Fatty's rest area walk went pretty well until a louder truck went by that spooked him, so Audra quickly picked him up and got back in the van.
We arrived in Savannah and found a parking spot in the shade next to Forsyth Park. We cracked open the windows and turned on our Max Air fan so the cats would be comfortable, and headed out for a walk through the park. Savannah is one of our favorite cities, with all its history, gorgeous old architecture, and charming tree-lined streets, parks, and squares. We first visited the area not long after we were married, and have visited a few times since. We took some time in the park to snap some photos and people watch. If the trees here could talk, they sure would have stories to tell. Just in our short time of being in the park, we witnessed a proposal, a wedding, a video shoot, and a peaceful protest. We left the park to check on the cats and then drove around the many squares.
Next, we headed over to River Street, one of our favorite spots. The cobblestone street is lined with shops and restaurants and buildings that used to serve as cotton warehouses, and it's great for watching street performers and people watching. Due to COVID, we tried not to browse too many shops, but we couldn't resist the Candy Kitchen, where they make fresh fudge and taffy. After having our fill of candy, we headed back to the van to check on the cats and for a quick change of clothes, then headed back down to the riverfront in search of something to eat.
I've been wanting to try fried green tomatoes, so I searched recommendations for the best in Savannah. I settled on Vic's on the River. The timing was perfect. It started pouring just as we arrived at Vic's, and we were able to go inside. As we waited for our order, the rain quickly passed, and there was a beautiful rainbow.
You ready for this? Fried green tomatoes
From Vic's on the River in Savannah, Georgia. Vic's did not disappoint. The tomatoes were served with tomato chutney, balsamic glaze, and goat cheese, a really delicious combination. We ended the evening relaxing by strolling down the waterfront, watching the ships go by, being entertained by street performers, and enjoying the sunset.
The next morning, we planned to go for a bike ride.
Well, we were going to go for a bike ride, but we got a flat. And I did not bring my pump. No bike ride for us.
Instead of a bike ride, we decided to take a walk through some of the squares of the city. We stopped to listen to the church bells of the Lutheran Church of Ascension on Wright Square. It is on the National Register of Historic Places, being built in the mid-1800s.
It was time to get back on the road. We made sure the cats were settled in and headed home. We're surprised at how well the cats have adapted already to traveling.
You just watching the road go by, Fatty?
They seem to be very content while we drive.
Is he a good boy? Hi, baby. What you doing, huh? Hi, baby.
It probably helps that Steve is a very careful driver and our trip was smooth, other than a few storms we had to drive through. It's very loud in the van when it rains.
Thanks for watching another one of our episodes. For all of you who have subscribed to our channel, thank you. If you haven't yet subscribed, please take a second and hit that subscribe button now.